This is Joyful, Happiness Movement and Podcast. I discover the science behind happiness and well-being, and through sharing stories, I am searching for the secrets to a happier life. You can find two types of episodes on our platforms, guest series and solo episodes. In our guest series, I will be meeting with experts who share their knowledge or experiences, contributing to a better understanding of a happier life. The solo episodes are divided into series of 5 episodes in each series, as in each episode I will talk about a topic related to one of the 5 pillars of happiness that we've designed at Joyful. If you're curious to know what are those 5 pillars, I invite you to check out our Instagram page. I hope you're ready, as it's time to be joyful. Starting this podcast, I began a journey during which I wanted to discover what is a happy life. As I am stepping through, trying to keep this thing going as my life changes, I realized that the clarity I thought to have at the beginning is fading away. With each step, as I am trying to get closer to the answer, it seems to evade. It really gets messier and messier, and without surprise, happy life turns out to be super complicated. After having recorded the recent episode with Jasper, he asked me what was happiness to me, and even though I might be aware of the scientific ground underlying the concept of happiness, knowing the necessary puzzle pieces, I have no clue what happiness is to me. What's funny is that, of course, I'm asking that question to all of my guests at the end of the episode, and most of them do not really have a problem answering my question. This means that maybe they are in a clearer place. Maybe they are smarter than me and have it all figured out. It is, after all, not them, but me who is on this ridiculous quest. With the beginning of this year, I thought that it's probably a good time to air another episode where I share my thoughts. I did not want to do a New Year's episode, however, because I'm not sure what this new year means to me. I feel like I am currently letting go of a certain vision and a plan that I had for myself, and this year is a big unknown. So in these times of turmoil, I find special consolation in music, which is why I wanted to make it the topic of today's episode. In my daily life, at work and outside of it, I am surrounded by words, text, and information. And this is why I think music is offering something else that has this soothing effect. And I think that many of you may feel the same. I think very often you can hear how people say that music understands. Many of us turn to music when facing some difficult emotional situation. And then I also remember my mom, for instance, saying when she came back, she's a psychotherapist, and coming back from work and saying that she can't handle words or conversations, that the only thing that she can listen to is music. And back then I really thought that she was exaggerating, but I think that today, looking back, I can clearly see what exactly did she mean. Music has always been close to my heart, and probably to hearts of so many of us. I mean, just think about it. How insane it is that we spend hours a day listening to all kinds of songs and sounds. How amazing it is that for centuries, actually, people engage in these activities like listening to music or going to art galleries, viewing and producing visual art, dancing and gathering in crowded rooms just to listen to how someone plays a guitar. And what's more, we think that this is so normal that we really rarely wonder at the miraculousness of this fact. In addition to that, in mainstream, when one thinks about musicians or artists, it is rarely a choice of life or a career that is appreciated. And why wouldn't we be happy if our child decides to become a musician and not a doctor? In the end, isn't listening to music something far more pleasant than a doctor's visit? Why don't we want a child to do something that will bring pleasure and happiness to so many? Why, even though millions of people can sing Coldplay's Viva La Vida together at a concert, do we still consider art as an accessory and not as something so inherent to our existence and to our happiness? Aesthetics, for instance, is without a doubt something of great importance to me. I hate being in ugly spaces. I feel horrible when I'm somewhere that is just ugly, when the lighting's bad, when I'm passing a construction site in the city. So I enjoy going to art galleries and watching beautiful films or photographs. And ever since I can remember, each time I interacted with art, I asked myself, why is it that we create art? And why is it that it is a source of pleasure for so many? So following the thread, there are two axes through which I think I'd like to move in today's episode. One concerns the creative drive, so why some of us, or maybe all of us, feel a strong need to create art and what forms of expression are there. The other axis concerns the emotional power of one of the art forms that I am most familiar with, namely music. So let's begin then. Let's talk about creativity. I'm not sure if any of you have ever had this feeling too, but I personally have a really strong need to create stuff. Whether it's writing or taking photos or singing or songwriting, when I do not engage in these activities, I feel incomplete, maybe unhappy even. As I was not sure how common exactly is this phenomenon, I decided to do some research. I asked around a little and was happy to find out that several people from my surroundings shared this need. They told me eagerly about how making art or music in particular is a way for them to cope with some intense emotions they experience. At the same time, these were the people who in general acquired some artistic education. So then, to broaden my research sample, I went also through online forums and scientific literature to find out that A, according to information on forums, some people do declare that they do not have this need for creating stuff. And B, according to scientific literature, creativity and need for creation is actually a universal quality, which seems to depend greatly on our culture and the context of our upbringing. So first, let's consider the people's responses on online forums. I found that surprisingly many were saying how they did not feel the need to create. They were saying that they had a more logical way of thinking, that they liked following the rules, doing repetitive tasks. Some phrase it even as a banker's soul. At the same time, so looking at that, I thought that these people may perhaps concern creativity as being something reserved for people with an artistic spirit. I think that maybe some people just create an image of themselves as people who are logical and rational, and they're afraid to look at themselves from a different perspective, maybe forgetting that one can be creative in multiple domains and not only art. So even if you do have a banker's soul, or however you want to call it, perhaps you nevertheless enjoy, for instance, inventing new recipes in the kitchen, or you like mixing and matching different colors in your Excel files, or you enjoy trying new ways of organizing your folders. All of that can count as creativity, I think. So even though some people claim not to be particularly creative or not have this need, I believe that they simply are not aware of the ability or need that they have. And another thing to consider here is, of course, the exposure, the environment. So it is true that growing up in different homes, countries, and cultures, creativity may or may not have been an important characteristic to consider. So if in your background it was not, creativity was not considered important, and maybe today you think that this is not something that you need in particular. So to sum up, what I wanted to say here is that despite the varying answers I found online and among my groups of friends, I still think that we are all creative, but to a differing degree, and maybe we simply assign bigger or smaller importance to creativity per se. Okay, let's turn to the literature. Creativity is defined as the ability to generate novel, original ideas or solutions. Importantly, a thought or behavior must be both novel and original and useful, adaptive, to be classified as creative. So it can't fulfill only one of these because, for instance, let's consider a simply novel idea. It is not that great. For instance, a simply novel idea is to eat an apple while walking backwards. Well, okay, novel, but not really useful. And then we have only useful ideas. So, for instance, putting the socks on before putting your socks on your feet before you put on your shoes. Well, it's useful, but it's not really creative, right? So researchers interested in creativity began to study it long ago, and they were, for example, looking at personalities of highly creative people. From research on this topic, we find out today that creative people are more open to new experiences, less conventional, less conscientious, more self-confident and self-accepting, driven, ambitious, but they are also more dominant, hostile, and impulsive. We also find some review articles, which claim that today's schooling system and organization of life is not particularly in favor of people with creative mindset, as qualities associated with creativity are not really the qualities of best students. The diligent students are those who repeat and execute tasks according to instructions. So it seems that the vision of school from Pink Floyd's Another Brick in the Wall may actually be at least partly true. Moreover, as creative attitudes are not reinforced at the early stages of development, as a consequence, in adult lives, many of these creative souls may face the struggle of having the need, this really deep need to create and act and make things, and not really having the possibility or the abilities to create this output. So I am here to say that the need for creating things is important, and I can see it clearly in myself, and I know that there are many of you who feel the same way. So how to find place and how to give ourselves the permission to create. What blocks me personally in this whole endeavor is mostly the fear of not being good enough. I think that there is this general notion that exists in our society that in order to paint or sing or dance, you really need to master these skills. We constantly compare ourselves to other people, to successful and famous artists, photographers, filmmakers, and we are afraid to then showcase our work, and we don't like to share what we create, and we're terrified of judgment from others and, most importantly, from ourselves. And I try to fight with this horrible fear I have, and I try to simply take pleasure in the creative activities that I do. But this comes with different results. So preparing this episode, I really wanted to look at this and see how other people also perceive their creative acts. I wanted to investigate people's attitudes towards art and creation. And I came across a fascinating chapter in a book titled Engaging Art, The Next Great Transformation of America's Cultural Life, written by Henry Jenkins and Vanessa Bertozzi, and it's about artistic expression among young people today. Growing within the internet culture and surrounded by new technologies, new forms of artistic expression seem to be emerging, although they are still not fully accepted in this old and classical artistic world. For decades now, we have been witnessing how the distance between artworks and common people grows. To appreciate the fine art, people go to museums, to art galleries or concert halls, where they sit still and are supposed to appreciate art, contemplating its meaning or importance. And for many, this is really difficult or even boring. Without proper background and engagement, these aesthetic experiences may be frustrating, hard to understand, and difficult to appreciate. So, as Jenkins and Bertozzi observe, young people too seem to shrug at the sight of the so-called magnificent heritage of human existence that they see in the museums. At the same time, these same young people, but not only young, I think it concerns all of us, are passionate about other art forms such as manga, video games, electronic music. Many engage in cosplay meetings, enjoy comic books, actively create video game scenarios, record films, take photos, create music, try DJing, and so on and so on. So, could it be that these classical forms of visual art are becoming something of a relic of artistic expression? They become something distant, something that we go to contemplate and observe, but in which we do not necessarily participate ourselves. Well, of course, this form of art is still super valid and touching, and it is very important. It has a super important place in the modern world. But at the same time, it seems evident that as multiple new means of expression become available, they are also more widely appreciated by the general public. popular films, comic stories, or AI-generated artworks are consumed more often and are a guarantee, the so-called guarantee of pleasure and fun for its recipients, whether the distant artworks that we see in museums are something difficult to understand and difficult in the end to appreciate, maybe. So the authors note that these new means of artistic expression make art more participatory. So whereas going to an art gallery may be a pleasant and enriching experience, observing the works of great masters may make us feel small, block us, stop us from engaging in artistic activity ourselves, because we think that this is reserved for people with an actual talent and dedication. And I think that we just lose so much thinking this way. We forget about how much joy the art may bring. So the easy art, Instagram photography, DJing at home are participative, and they bring us this vital aesthetic pleasure, I think. And okay, well, if there are any art critics or people who are within the art world, they are probably super furious and maybe even appalled by my words. Because yes, one might argue that fine art is not necessarily meant for the masses, that it is subtle and important, and that it should be intellectual and difficult. And of course, that forms of high art were always reserved only for a fragment of our society. And so this is probably still the case. But it does seem to me that in our current reality, there is very little space and permission to engage in creative action, and that the perspective of an artwork as something unreachable and sacred impedes many from creating, and impedes from creating those that may have this super strong need within them. And actually today, creating is easier than ever before. People can enjoy a virtual reality experience, follow an escape game, create a blog, a podcast, make an Instagram reel. All of these are creative actions that, if falling into certain categories, could maybe, potentially, be considered art. And more importantly, these activities can be a source of great joy. Incorporating and validating these new forms of expression as art, the authors argue, could connect us to the old model when people gathered to engage in creative action together, to sing or dance traditional dances, to knit traditional tapestries, simply for the sake of play and joy that it brought. Creating art is, I believe, linked to this playfulness that we sometimes lose when we grow up. Making art should be a place of joy, where we can make errors and where we can escape into this another magical, imaginary world. So, just recently, I participated in a conference on creativity at University of Lausanne, where I had a chance to attend, among others, a workshop on art therapy. And I have to say that it seemed to me incredibly powerful. It felt powerful to try and connect my feelings and express them through drawing. Even though I had absolutely no drawing skills, and drawing is not at all, creating visual art, painting is not at all something that is close to me. I rarely do it. It was super difficult, but I think I saw how it can allow you to connect your emotions and then let go of some schemas that you have in your head, let go of the beauty of it, or of some kind of vision of what it's supposed to look like, when you can simply just try to connect and express what you feel with some kind of artistic mean, like drawing or painting using color or form. It is truly liberating, I think. And well, people have been creating art forever. So I ask myself, why is it that today our society is so indifferent, and many have such patronizing attitudes towards art? So you can let me know if you agree with me, and what are your thoughts on this topic. Maybe if you yourself engage in some creative activities, and what are your motivations for doing so. And now I would like to move on to the second big topic of today's episode, which is music. First, I want to share an inspiring example of how music can serve a positive social change. This year, it will be 50 years of an initiative called El Sistema, which is a music education program founded in Venezuela by José Antonio Abreu. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. And it first started, this initiative first started in José Antonio Abreu's garage, where he invited young people from impoverished environments to join him and simply play music together. And they created an orchestra. This initiative grew, and its main aim was to direct the troubled youth away from lives of drug abuse and crime. And today, El Sistema includes more than 400 music centers around the world. But music is special not only because of this joining power that playing together may have. Music is particularly strongly linked to our emotions. Film music, for instance, informs us about the emotional mood of the scenes that we watch. Happy rhythmic music makes us feel uplifted, makes us want to move and dance around. Sad music touches us deeply, bringing yet another different kind of pleasure. Music can give us thrills and can irritate us, but why? Where does this power of music come from? Well, we do not quite know why. For starters, let's discuss the links between music and emotion. Two factors mostly decide whether we consider a musical piece as sad or happy. When a musical piece is in a minor mode and when it's slow, it is considered sad, and conversely, faster melodies in a major mode are considered happy or positive. This effect is observed all around the world between different cultures, irrespectively of age or gender. We cannot really say, though, that this perception is universal, because in a study which investigated the perception of melodies in major and minor mode in different tempi in indigenous African populations who did not have previous contact with Western music, they still attributed negative emotions to minor mode and positive emotions to major mode, but this was in a way less consistent manner than it was the case for the Westerners. And the lack of other studies on this topic and various methodological constraints that such studies have make universality of music perception a difficult thing to study. So the answer to the question of whether the way we perceive emotions in music is innate or learned remains, fortunately or unfortunately, but it remains unanswered. Today, the predominant theory explaining the phenomenon of viewing certain musical pieces as sad and others as happy claims that this is related to the perception of speech prosody. So let me explain. Speech prosody is the tone of our voice when we speak. With emotional agitation, for instance, we speak faster, and this is, so we speak faster, and this seems to be why in music a similar pattern is observed. So faster music is related to higher emotional arousal. However, even if this is the case, we do not really have the answer to this major-minor mode conundrum, and I don't think that research so far has provided an answer to this question. Okay, but apart from perceiving certain emotions from music, we also know that music can make us feel a certain way, and that musical excerpts are often used in psychological research or in films, to induce specific emotion. Just think about walking from home with your headphones on, and then suddenly a happy song, maybe Unwritten by Natasha Banksfield, Unwritten, like Feel the Rain on Your Skin, comes on. So if this song doesn't lift you up in that moment, then, well, I don't really know what does. But yeah, so music has also this power of making us feel a certain way. Think about another scenario. You're in a supermarket and then suddenly a very long forgotten song is played through the speakers. And then you instantly travel back in time to the specific moment associated with this song. You may feel nostalgic as you remember how this song was played all the time during that one summer when you were 16 and you fell in love for the first time. So this ability of music to make us feel a certain way or take us back in time can be of great advantage. For instance, it is used for patients who suffer from dementia or Parkinson's disease. It may help them to remember past events, alleviate the pain, or in the case of Parkinson's disease patients, it may also help them to restore or slow down the decline of motor functions. So that is all great. But what is the role of music in happiness? And how does music in particular help me or help other people to get through the difficult time in our lives? So music is great for emotion induction. Can it make us happy? Before I answer that question, I want to answer another one. Can music make us sad? Well, I love sad songs. Radiohead, Bon Iver, Slow Dancing in a Burning Room, I just love listening to these melancholic sounds. So, do I want to feel sad? Do I like being sad? Well, not really, but because there are several reasons for which we enjoy sad music. Heartbreak songs, for instance, are, after all, I think one of the most popular genres and something we all reach for after a breakup or when we are unhappily in love. So, why is that? First, music that conveys negative emotions gives us a sense of validation. It resonates with our negative mood and makes us feel understood. Other research has also shown that music provides us with a type of catharsis. So, actually, when you're listening to a sad a sad song or a heartbreak song, first there's the buildup of the tension. So, this corresponds to our negative feelings. And then in this music, there is a kind of resolution. It can come with the chorus, for instance, with a refrain, I think. Yeah, the repetitive part of the song, I think it's a refrain. Then we have this resolution, and so we don't really know how this might work, but maybe because of the change in musical structure, or maybe because of the aesthetic pleasure we get from the beauty of the song, that these negative feelings can find this outlet, like catharsis, resolution. These effects of music, they may be also partly explained by how music impacts our heart rate, because our heart rate seems to tune in with the speed of a musical piece. So calming or relaxing slow music may calm us down, and conversely rhythmic upbeat music make us feel more energetic and eager to move. And then there is, of course, this aspect that I've already mentioned, where music makes us travel back in time and evoke feelings of nostalgia. So this reminiscing may also help us process some difficult emotions that we are facing. So all in all, music, and especially sad music, seems to often be used as an emotion regulation strategy, with people choosing the songs congruent with their current emotional state. So how does this relate to happiness? It has been widely shown that listening to happy music can make us happier, but the studies on this topic concern mostly the so-called state happiness. So people are happier right after listening to a positive valenced song, for instance. And then, you also have to consider the state in which you were when you began listening to a certain song. So when you are sad, you have to listen to a sad song, which may help you become happier. And then when you're feeling okay, then you can listen to a happy song to be happier. And then when you're happy, you also can listen to a happy song. And maybe it will also make you even more happy. So let's imagine a situation where I'm driving with my best friend and our favorite song comes on. We sing, we laugh, and we feel happy. But this is just, like a effect and cause. So this is like one-time situation. But can music also help us in developing this long-lasting happiness? Let's suppose that this trait happiness does exist. And so we all have a certain disposition of feeling more or less happy in life. So we have a certain baseline level of happiness, like a tendency, which can be understood as a tendency to experience positive emotions. And what is the role of music in augmenting this baseline level of happiness? Looking at literature, an important one. According to a scoping review from 2019 made by the World Health Organization, arts, and music included, positively affect our well-being. They positively affect, for instance, the social determinants of health, facilitating social cohesion and help to overcome social inequalities. For instance, we have this example of El Sistema that I've mentioned previously. And indeed, music in particular, so playing, singing, or dancing, seem to have a strong capacity to increase social bonding and reduce the feelings of loneliness or isolation. Arts also support child development, and music plays an important role in it too, for instance, helping in language development. Children who engage in music show structural differences in gray and white matter in the brains, which perhaps may lead to higher intelligence, better memory, and stronger cognitive processing skills across childhood. Then also mothers singing to their children in the so-called motherese, which is a language that moms often use to speak to their children, which is kind of like, like they want to be cute. So this is kind of what we understand by the motherese. So when moms sing to their children, This facilitates, supports the mother-infant communication, probably because these melodic arches, they contain some important emotional content. And singing can also help children who stutter, so advantages really seem to be endless. Apart from this spectacular positive impact of art on our social well-being, arts are also shown to encourage health-promoting behaviors. So I didn't know that, but apparently people who engage with the arts are also more likely to lead healthier lives, eating healthy, and stay physically active, and this is irrespectively of their socioeconomic status or social capital. And finally, engaging in art has also been shown to positively affect the extent to which we experience positive emotions in our daily lives, our life satisfaction, and the so-called eudaimonic well-being, which is our sense of meaning, autonomy, and purpose in life. So it seems, according to this great grand review article report, that art really has this amazing capacity to make us feel better. And this is both, our subjective well-being, but also our life satisfaction, gives us more sense of meaning and purpose, and probably there are many factors that contribute to this effect. So it's not only because we're at home and we are painting paintings that we can feel better, but there's probably also the social component. So very often when we create art, we would meet in groups. This enhances connections with other people. We may feel proud of what we did, or we can showcase our work. So I guess there are many levels of how art can, so there's also probably this emotion expression, emotion outlet component that I've talked about, that I've also kind of experienced myself, either during this art therapy workshop or when I'm, playing the piano or singing. So I think that there is also, so there are many things that may contribute to this spectacular effect that art seems to have on our well-being and then eventually happiness. Just a quick break. If you would like to engage in a small act of kindness yourself, go and follow us on Instagram. It will help us grow and develop this initiative. You can find us under the name Joyful, that's spelled with 10 U's. And if you're feeling particularly generous today, consider rating our podcast on the platform you're using to listen to us. It only takes a few seconds of your time, but it will bring a huge smile to our faces. Enjoy the rest of the show. Another line of evidence underlining just how important art is for our happiness comes from another 2020 review article published in peer-reviewed BMC Public Health. The researchers further investigated whether it is in fact the engagement in art per se, or maybe other factors related to socioeconomic status that have this positive impact on our well-being. And they found that, quote, frequent arts participation and cultural attendance were associated with lower levels of mental distress and higher levels of life satisfaction, with arts participation additionally associated with better mental health functioning. End quote. And that, in addition, all-time health and socioeconomic factors did explain some, but not all of the observed associations. So it really seems that it is art that that can help us feel better. So the evidence for the beneficial role of all kinds of art in our well-being is apparent. The humanities, music, literature, films, visual art, they all seem to contribute to our happiness and well-being, either through active engagement or mere exposure. So to all of you who think that humanities are an accessory, well, they are clearly not. And of course, I am biased, but I honestly think that they are what really matters in life. Spending time with friends or family engaging in art is the ultimate source of joy and happiness, I think. Okay, I know for myself that music is a wonderful consolation. I find comfort in it in many difficult moments of my life. The same goes for a good book or a film I like. I also experience this intense need to create, but sadly often fail to find time because I think that what I'm creating is not good enough, and I have this building up of negative emotions related to the act of creation per se, because I'm afraid of judgment and criticism, and this judgment and criticisms mostly comes from myself. So I decided to share with you this battle I'm facing, and I hope that I will work through this and I will find more time and kindness in my creative practices, because it really does seem to matter. when I think about it, for me, the greatest value of art is its non-literal meaning. Art communicates through metaphors, and they can directly resonate with how I feel in a given moment without the need of explicitly defining what it is that I'm feeling, for instance. So, as I've mentioned, as in my everyday life, I think and work with words a lot. Art, especially the nonverbal art, allows me to feel something else. It allows me to get to and to understand the parts of me I cannot name otherwise. I will be wrapping up this episode here. I hope it gave you inspiration and motivation to go out there and create. I hope that it will give me the inspiration and motivation to prioritize my own art making, whether it's podcasting, photography, songwriting, or whatever else, as doing these seemingly useless things that bring me joy is when I feel truly complete. Growing up, I really thought that this whole expression of emotion through music or art in general is not a real thing. I could not quite understand what the others are feeling and talking about. And with people saying how they see stories in the music I played, I just thought that they were making it up. But as I'm getting older, I see more and more of the value, power, and the mystery of this link between emotions and art. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I am looking forward to listening to your feedback, comments, anything that sparked up your interest. And I wish you a great year, 2025. I hope that art will accompany us all through along this year. And looking forward to seeing you back here soon at Joyful.